Good evening, folks. We here in America, we love to say we don't negotiate with terrorists. But guess what?
We do.
Sometimes we're forced to negotiate with terrorists because guess what? Some of them are in our legislature. And tonight we're going to talk about that, how Biden negotiated with the GOP terrorists on the debt ceiling.
So, first off, I forgot to say something in the short show, and I want to get this out now. Biden is your presidential nominee. Okay? Biden is your presidential nominee, and I'm not worried about 2028. Let's get let's get through 2024 first.
Let me just say
Please.
this. If you do not take care of business in 2024, there will
Doesn't
not
matter.
be a free and fair election in 2028. It doesn't matter who the fuck you put up there. We will be rubber stamping elections for the next, I don't know how many decades. If you allow the GOP to win the House and the Senate, we're done. I think you need to understand that everything you're seeing now will be magnified 100-fold.
Anytime anyone asks me, beyond my ignoring them, my answer will be whoever wins the primary, as long as they are a legitimate Democratic candidate, as long as they aren't RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson or some nutbag, I will support them. Okay? That's
You have
it.
to be able to beat Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
Or
Okay.
DeSantis or whoever.
Right. You know,
Okay.
we understand where we are right now. If the Republicans take control in 2024, your human rights, your women's rights, LGBTQ people, your Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, student debt, jobs, safety nets, food stamps, all of that shit will be gone. They will take all of that away from you.
It'll evaporate.
It will be gone. You're already seeing that this is clearly their intention. Nationwide ban on abortion, a nationwide ban on transgender care. You're seeing this all. If you cannot see the signs of Nazi Germany and what is going on in America, then you aren't paying attention to history. And you need to start right now.
And one giant part of fascism is a government run by big business who doesn't give a shit about you, by the way. And the few businesses that actually are trying to be morally responsible or socially responsible, they're being, clapped back on. And by the way, those businesses who have a consistent record of being socially and morally responsible, buy from them.
Yep.
That's easy enough. But we have the Republican Party who says, no, you shouldn't have COVID relief. By the way, just in case this happens again, we're in such dire straits that we can't stockpile that for a little while just to make sure that another pandemic doesn't happen again. So we're raking that back. We can't make sure that kids don't choke on poison water or air. We can't make sure that those ravaged by COVID and being unemployed and trying to pay their student loan debt and trying to pay their rent at the same time, that no, they have to start paying back their student loan debt immediately now. And I said this before in another one of the shows. Any of you guys complain that Biden shouldn't have negotiated that? He was the one that gave you the moratorium in the first place, so shut up. Okay?
Yeah, because let me just tell you, what did you think they were going to do? Did you think if he invoked the 14th Amendment, that wasn't going to be challenged up to the Supreme Court? Look, I understand Robert Reich was out there saying he should do it. Robert Reich is a finance guy. He's not a lawyer. He's not a legal guy. He's not a legal scholar. I agree with a lot of what he said. But once that was invoked and that was challenged in the courts, everybody's Social Security money, all the people who feed themselves, clothe themselves, and pay their rent with that would have been stopped. I had to wait to do something this month that I needed to do to see if I was going to get my Social Security money on the 3rd of the month, like I always do.
Right.
Understand this. If the Republicans are in power, it's game, set, and match here. If you can't see that by now, then you're living in an alternate reality, because they have made it very clear what they intend to do.
If we defaulted on our loans, that would have been it.
Here goes the country's credit rating. And by the way, when you invoke the 14th Amendment, it hurts your credit rating as a nation. We, like this or not, we trade with other countries. We barter with other countries. We borrow from other countries, and they borrow from us. Okay? This would have been a worldwide disaster. Okay? We already lost a lot of our standing in the world because Donald Trump was president. We didn't need to take another fucking hit. Okay? Understand where we are. Understand.
We are a major trade partner. And if we took a major hit like that, the entire world would have taken a major economic hit. Even worse, after the pandemic, it could have been a depression.
That's right.
Okay. I don't think people are very ambivalent about this whole debt ceiling thing. They're like, it's politics as usual. No,
it isn't. No, none of this was politics as usual. None of it. So go ahead, Dave. Let's go.
So here's the bottom line. As I said, there is no fascism without big business and billionaires and big money assholes being supported by the government. Understand this. Donald Trump built a national debt so big that it'll weigh down the economy for years. He spent more money, or raised the deficit, third highest, comparatively speaking, in United States history. Over $7 trillion. Almost half of that was billionaire tax cuts. So when Kevin McCarthy compares Joe Biden to a kid with a credit card just spending crazy, understand that all of the social programs that they were talking about cutting, food stamps, the SNAP program, Head Start, by the way, the burn pit legislation, all of that was on the table again. Okay. Student loans, the pandemic relief is going to be taken back. All of that. What Trump did dwarfed all of that. And on top of it, Deb said it, the Republicans are back to trying to get tax breaks for the billionaires again, which Biden has just basically said flat out he's going to veto any of that. Okay. Now, I don't know what the hell Manchin and Sinema are going to do. We'll get there when we get there. But understand how we got where we got. Now, if it was such a problem, when Biden has been, comparatively speaking, more than fiscally responsible to this jackass, why did the Republicans, and I know the answer, Deb knows the answer, you know the answer, why did the Republicans allow Trump to raise the debt ceiling 3 times, and they're giving Biden such a hard time? Because Trump was their guy. And also, Trump was giving tax cuts to their base. Understand all this. Some of us, that's the very first thing.
Don't ever think for a nanosecond that the Republicans know they have nothing to run on. Don't ever think for a nanosecond that they would not use the debt ceiling and throwing this country into a desperate situation against Joe Biden to destroy the economy. That was part of the discussion, folks. Okay? Let's understand this. Don't think for a nanosecond. They know who they are. And they know they're not in the majority in this country. And they will do whatever they can to win. Because fascists want more than anything to maintain power. That's why we had January 6, 2021.
And by the way, so here's a decent little this article from Politico came out prior to the bill being passed, but House Republicans are deal making newbies, and that could be a problem. It was a problem, still a problem for Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy sold his soul for that House majority seat.
He did.
Kevin McCarthy also has a very faulty argument. Biden knows it, and he knows it. Oh, we just want to rein in spending. Really?
All of a sudden, you want to rein in spending.
Okay. After all
That's why he's writing a brand new bill.
Right.
To give trillionaires more money.
Right. Oh, by the way, no defense spending cuts. No. Because again, that would affect their base.
Right.
So, but McCarthy has never really done any negotiating like this, as opposed to other Republicans in the past. All right. Even John Boehner, who I thought was a putz, he worked across the aisle on landmark education overhaul. Paul Ryan took the House after helming a massive budget deal that even Democrats called a blueprint for future talks. Now, that was in the past. These guys are all about obstruction, which is amazing that Biden was able to do what he did. Truly is amazing. So,
and by the way, Biden went into this vowing to the American people that there would be no default. Okay? And you know what? I believe he would have done what he had to do.
And the Republicans were playing an extremely dangerous game when they started playing aggressive and people started to understand how dangerous this could get. It was a game of chicken, and Republicans had to back off because they knew deep in their hearts, except for the Freedom Caucus idiots, they knew in their hearts they couldn't do this. Because not only would it decimate their legacy, their jobs, whatever, it was going to decimate the global economy. They overplayed their hand, the Republicans. So, where Donald Trump spent more money than God, you had Joe Biden that economists are cheering as doing an amazing job in terms of employment. Now, this is in spite of the fact some people, let's be honest, don't want to work. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I work.
We've had an under 4% unemployment rate for 10 months. For months, people were like, this isn't going to last. This isn't going to last. This isn't going to last. It's lasted for almost a year now.
Yeah, it's time to shut up, okay, folks? It really is.
So I agree that I'm not making as much as I used to. I'm not making overtime. The economy is rough right now. It is. You think the Republicans give a rat's ass? They don't. As a matter of fact,
what Joe Biden has done, and this is exactly what, has been said by the Washington Post, Jennifer Rubin, and by several other economists, is he has built the economy from the bottom up and from the middle out so that it benefits the people who need it the most. That was the progressive goal.
Yeah, Robert Rubin. Who did he?
I'm talking about Jennifer Rubin.
No, Robert Rubin is the ex-secretary of the Treasury. In my next article, do you know who he is? Do you
Yeah,
know
I actually do. I forget who he served under. It might have been. Let me see.
I was just wondering if he was Republican or Democrat.
That's what I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive he served under a Democrat, but hold on. I don't really know, but I will find out now. Clinton.
Oh, he had to. Yeah,
Treasury
he had to have been. Yeah,
December
he had to have
94.
been because in this alternate article, I just saw it. I'm proud to have served in an administration that balanced the budget. He had to have, no way in hell was that a Republican.
Right.
So basically what he's saying is that, as I've said before, the Republicans were playing an extremely dangerous game because they were using the debt ceiling as a weapon, as a bargaining chip.
Exactly right. It has
to
never
get things what they wanted.
It has never been tied to the budget before, and it should not ever be tied to the budget again. And if the Democrats win the majority, they need to pass legislation stating that, because this was a really ridiculous. This was everybody says it, everybody knows it. It was a manufactured crisis. That's what this was. None of what was in Joe Biden's budget had anything to do with this debt ceiling increase. This is all to pay off Donald Trump's bullshit.
Now, I'm not going over this thing. The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, that's the debt ceiling bill. It's here. You guys want to read it? That's fine. There's a few things that the Democrats didn't want that they got. The three big ones. There was a natural gas pipeline that Biden had to cave on. And you're going to be, he didn't have to cave on it, blah, blah, blah. That was, he was catering to the interest of the blah, blah, blah. That was one.
Put that in.
Second,
okay.
Yeah, they rammed it in. The
right.
Republicans rammed it in. He didn't put it in there.
He didn't put it in.
So the second one is work requirements for the food stamps, which I will get into. They didn't want that. And they were pushing for immediately getting rid of the moratorium on student loans and eliminating student loan debt relief. Another one is actually, now that I remember, raking back the COVID relief funds that still exist, which Deb and I will argue is dangerous because it's not over.
I think it's very dangerous.
And the other thing is, on top of that, now there's a spending freeze. There's a spending freeze for the next 2 years. Now, can they revisit that? Of course they can. But any spending increase has to be approved by this Congress.
And with the MAGA Republicans in control of the House, I'm going to say it again. Should never have lost the House. You better win it back.
You have a guy in Utah who's leaving in September now, but we still have a minority, in the House.
Yeah,
so
that would be an improvement over where we are. Would require Republicans crossing the aisle to
that's not happening.
Caucus with the Democrats, and you can forget it with the Freedom Caucus. It just is not going to happen. It's a cult. Understand this. You're dealing with a cult.
So there's a few articles in here basically giving overviews of what was in the debt ceiling. basically, debt ceiling bill, what you have to understand is that McCarthy and the Republicans and the Freedom Caucus originally went in there to slash and burn Social Security, Medicare,
Medicaid.
Medicaid, Head Start programs, SNAP, anything they saw, they were just like ripping wires out of the wall. All of that, most of that was staved off. And as Joe Biden said, we didn't get what we wanted, but we got what we needed. So,
And if you want this to be better, oh, you know what? I can't say it enough. Vote accordingly. That's all I'm going to say.
right. So, if you want to compare how Joe Biden did versus McCarthy, I have video of their speeches after the debt bill was signed from McCarthy and from Biden. Biden has been doing this for an extremely long time. People keep on bashing him because he's old. The man is experienced. He's been doing this since 1973. Okay, he's been doing it for 50 years. So he knows what he's doing. Number one, there are differences in what Biden did versus what McCarthy did. McCarthy chirped and ran his mouth throughout this entire thing, and he put himself into a hole, especially given the fact that he's already under a lot of pressure from his own party.
He's a little puppet on the string.
He's a puppet.
He's a little puppet. He's got Marjorie Taylor Greene playing his strings. She's, for all intents and purposes, she's Speaker of the House. She's pulling the strings. Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, all of the most vocal members of the Freedom Caucus. He ceded all of his power to them to get that gavel.
Mike Lee. There's a couple other guys. I can't remember their names. Mike Lee was one that just blasted him. Okay, and there are people who were complaining about what Biden had to give up, but Biden did pretty much everything behind the scenes. He called Premal Jayapal before the vote, let her know what was going on, let her know, what they had to do. I
don't know if you, Dave, I don't know if you put Hakeem Jeffries' speech in here after that whole thing.
I didn't, but I'll put it in there.
He will explain to you the difference between what the Republicans are and what the Democrats are. They actually, this whole Biden's whole agenda was put together with the Progressive Caucus. Okay, they negotiated, they worked it out together. They actually work together in tandem. The Freedom Caucus actually has Kevin McCarthy by his cojones.
Right.
I mean, 15 votes to win the speaker's position was also another unheard of event in American history. It was another silent coup. This debt ceiling crisis was another coup attempt. Understand this, okay? This isn't over yet. They are here. It doesn't matter that Donald Trump is on the outside looking in for the time being. What matters is the garbage he's left behind.
Now, Deb alluded to a good point, and I kind of have that at the end. Biden had allies within his own party. McCarthy basically had no one. Even Mitch McConnell, who was kind of in the background and kind of helping, sort of, he basically said it was McCarthy's show. Okay, so McCarthy was out there basically doing this. Now, one thing Biden did acknowledge that he couldn't, that he couldn't do it completely without McCarthy. He thanked McCarthy for his help and, the bipartisan effort that he made to give things up. But the one thing that I disagree with Biden in his speech on is the fact that this was a bipartisan deal. Biden had to claw and scratch for every single thing that he got, and this almost didn't happen. And
he's being too gracious, but you know what?
he is.
You know what?
That's fine.
That's the least of my worries, honestly.
Right. Well, the other thing is he knows that it's actually putting pressure on McCarthy, because thanking McCarthy for helping him puts him into shit with his own party.
Right.
So that's part of this game. Okay. Now, somebody will say, well, what about the Democrats who voted against their own party? They didn't. Not really. Just like the Freedom Caucus, there are progressive members that differ with Biden on how much he gave up, and they wanted less to be given up. Okay. And they didn't do it to tank the deal. What they did was they did it to make a statement.
That's right.
There were a couple of senators that voted against. I believe Bernie Sanders voted against it. There were a couple others.
A couple. There were every senator in Massachusetts voted against it.
Oh, that's right.
Warren, and I knew they would, because they're progressive candidates.
Right.
McGovern, Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
You know, their job.
Well, it was 6, I think. Was there 6?
5.
5. Okay.
There were 4 Democrats and Bernie Sanders, who was independent as he's in the Senate. He's a Democrat when he runs for
right.
president. Okay. Right. So their job is to make sure the most underrepresented people are represented in the Democratic Party. Their job is to push the Democratic Party further to the left so that everyone gets a fair shake. That's what they were doing. So they had plenty of votes to get this passed, and they knew that. Okay. And they did what they did for all the right reasons.
So here's a couple of the big ticket items that were on there, and kind of some of the nitty-gritty that people don't understand. So here's the first thing with the debt limit and the basically the food stamps and the work requirements and all of that. So this is from the Associated Press, so you know it's a valid source. All right. So the gist of it, and it'll come up eventually, the gist of it is that, yes, there were cuts that were made. Some people are not going to be able to take advantage of the program anymore. However, they actually, oh, wait a minute. Oops. Here we go. So they actually, was the wrong one. They actually added people to the program and added money to the program because Biden added a provision. Fine, you want to add work, but you have to include 2 groups. You have to include the homeless, and you have to include veterans. When they did that, they actually expanded the program.
So, contrary to what the Republicans are telling you, they didn't save any money on this.
No.
This actually is costing money. This is what I mean when you talk about the Republican Party, they really have no clue what they're doing, because they don't really care about poor people. Right. What they care about is slash and burn. Anything that looks like it's a entitlement, they go after.
Right.
And in fact, more people will be included in this now. Okay.
Right. And hey, maybe, if people are able to work and people are able to get, and we mentioned it, some people don't want to work. That's true. Some people would rather just skate. It's not the majority, but there is a small percentage of people who will do that. Who'll be like, why the hell should I work? I collect unemployment for blah, 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 and I'm getting paid.
And
There
by
is a
the
small
way,
percentage of people who do that.
right. And by the way, let me also just say this. This is a 2-year deal. You
Right.
want this all to change? Then you know what? You know what you have to do come November 2024. This is not forever. This is a 2-year deal. The debt ceiling comes up again. All of this comes up again. We need to divorce the debt ceiling from the budget. By the way, I'm going to just say this now and get this off my chest. I'm just going to say it. Say the Republicans had never tied any of Joe Biden's budget to the debt ceiling to begin with.
Yeah.
All right. The danger of doing that was we had a finite amount of time to get it done. Okay.
Right.
That's what the danger was before we went into default. So let's pretend none of that ever happened. We raised the debt ceiling and everything was hunky-dory. When Joe Biden's budget came up, did you think they were not going to go after this budget? They most certainly were. And they would have had more time to slash and burn than they did. You need to understand that. They are in the majority in the House. It doesn't matter now that we have a 2-seat lead in the Senate. Everything has to be approved by both chambers. Okay?
They overplayed the hand. They overplayed the hand, and they tried to strong arm using an extreme tactic, and it backfired on them. They would have had more leverage by not doing this, which is what Deb is saying. And by the way,
install this forever.
You want to talk about entitlements?
Potentially gone after Social Security.
Right. Exactly.
Understand this.
By the way, you want to talk about entitlements? Let's talk about entitlements. Tax cuts to the wealthy, extremely wealthy, number one, that we've been talking about, number one. Number two, those COVID relief small business loans to people like Tom Brady, Marjorie Taylor Greene, millionaire and billionaire businessmen. How are they small businessmen?
What the hell did Matt Gaetz need a PPP loan for?
Right.
What the hell did Matt Gaetz need a PPP loan for? They're worried about the student debt relief. They all got their loans forgiven. All of them. None of them had to pay their loans back. What the hell did Lauren Boebert need a PPP loan for? What the hell did Marjorie Taylor Greene need a PPP loan? You know what? She hasn't actually really ever run her family business.
Right.
That was a lie she made up to get on the ballot.
So here's another, the student loan situation. Here's what's going on. Okay. Guys, you're going to have to start paying your student loans probably the beginning of September. I don't know, maybe September, maybe October. I'm not sure. Okay. This ends in August. All right. Now, the student debt relief, it's still going. It's still an ongoing thing. They're still fighting this whole thing. Now, it's possible. This article says it's possible that there might be one more moratorium if the student debt relief is completely decimated. Maybe. We'll see. All right. That might actually
in the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Yeah.
That might actually be part of the Supreme Court deal. They might roll it back. Maybe. We'll see. But more than likely, you're going to have to start paying in, by the end of August, early September, unless Congress votes for a moratorium. Why would they do that? The Senate just voted against one.
Right.
Okay. It's not going to happen. All of the student debt relief is in flux.
And by the way, in case you're wondering why we couldn't stave that off in the Senate with a 2-seat lead, again, we only added 1 seat in the Senate. We could have added more. We have 2 senators named Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin.
Right.
Joe Manchin claims to be a Democrat. Kyrsten Sinema is now an independent, but she has tanked many of Joe Biden's progressive programs in concert with Joe Manchin since the beginning of this. Now, we have a guy named Ruben Gallego, a Democrat, running for Kirsten Sinema's seat. We need to get rid of her, and we need to make sure we get rid of her soundly. He needs votes, okay? He's popular in the House. He's in the House right now. He needs to win in the Senate. There will be, GOP contenders. There's already one named Mark Lamb, all right? And now Carrie Lake is talking about running, okay? Yep. Kirsten Sinema went independent because she knew she was unpopular with Arizona's Democratic Party, and she was going to be primaried. She wanted to avoid that. The path here is clear. Gallego needs to win that Senate seat.
Yep. Now, on top of that, we may lose West Virginia. That might happen.
Yeah, there is a Republican now running against Manchin, I believe.
Right. And he's relatively popular, so who knows?
By the way, you know what? I keep saying this. Manchin might as well be a Republican.
Right.
He is absolutely useless to the Democratic Party. For a state so goddamn small, he wields way too much power in the Senate. Okay? He's a waste of space, essentially. So let's strengthen the Senate enough so that if he does win, he hasn't got that power. And if he loses, it's no big deal. That's what we have to think about.
I mean, we'll be talking about this soon, but we have people that we really need to fight to get out. Rick Scott and Mark Rubio. Florida's in turmoil right now. People are starting to fight back on all of DeSantis's garbage. Maybe, just maybe, we can get one of them.
Well, I think Rubio's not up. He won.
Oh, true.
Okay, Rubio's not up, but Rick Scott.
He's not up, but Rick Scott is up,
and they consider him. They consider that doable.
Is Lindsey Graham up?
I just gave a list to Sarah, by the way.
Okay.
Senators that are up.
I think he is. No, I think he is up. Let
me just say this one more time for people. The entire House of Representatives is up again. All of them. We need the House back. We had a 9-seat lead. We should not have lost. Okay. The Senate, I believe there are 40 senators of the 100 of however many 100 there are in the Senate, 40 up for election this year. I know that Rick Scott's one of them on the Republican side. I also know that Ted Cruz is, and we have a strong Democratic candidate that can win. Cruz needs to go. He's MAGA to the core.
And New York, get your shit together. California, Get your shit together, please. We never should have allowed George Santos. Okay.
Democratic Party infighting about who was more progressive and who was less progressive is what got you George Santos. This is not the time, okay? We're looking at fascism, plain and simple. You have a choice. I'm a one-issue voter in 2024. Democracy, okay?
Right.
I'll worry about everything after that because unless democracy is protected, nothing gets fixed. Nothing.
Adam Frisch is progressive enough right now. He's more progressive than Lauren Boebert, for God's sake.
That was another stupid fight. He wasn't progressive enough. So the alternative was 2 more years of Lauren Boebert. Have you been watching her?
So let's talk about Lauren Boebert for 1 second. I've got a couple of closing comments on this whole thing. Lauren Boebert, number one, doesn't matter why she didn't vote. Really doesn't. She's useless anyway. She would have voted against it. But why waste your time on this? But this was a better run, almost a better run than Josh Hawley, probably. She was running up the steps because she was late for the vote. And then she turned around and said it was a protest, non-vote. There she goes. She missed it. She missed the vote. She was late. And instead of just saying she was late, she forgot there were she lied. And she forgot there were cameras outside. You would think that she would remember after January 6th. Just saying.
And by the way, she then had the absolute nerve to call for Kevin McCarthy to be removed from the speaker seat when she didn't even bother to make the vote.
Right.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe she was bailing her ex-husband out. I don't know. Maybe she had a legitimate reason for being late. I don't know. And it's not really our business. All she had to do was say, I had a personal situation. I'm sorry. I missed the vote. I was late. That's all she had to say, but she's full of crap. So, and she's pointless. Check this out. I can't find this anywhere else. Nowhere else. McCarthy gave Joe Biden credit for working with him. Okay. Biden has no problem giving credit to people who argue with him, who disagree with him if he gets a deal. McCarthy has an issue with that. All right. McCarthy also not only was outmaneuvered by Joe Biden, and this is what, like a minute clip?
Yeah, it's good. It's actually good.
And by the way, I don't care if you don't like Keith Olbermann. He's actually spitting facts for like a minute. I don't care. I found this quite amusing and quite interesting. Not only was he outmaneuvered by Joe Biden, he was outmaneuvered by Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries, who has the minority in the House, by the way. He got more votes for the debt ceiling, and you had people with legitimate reasons not to vote for it. He got 165 votes. McCarthy got 149. Just saying. So McCarthy, he can take his victory lap all he wants. He was outmaneuvered. He was outclassed. He was outnegotiated. And he got very little, based on what he wanted. And by the way, now this is pretty much done. They tied it to the budget. Now they're going to live with it now. You think they're going to try to, they're going to try to like wiggle out of it? Of course they are.
Because they're slime.
Because they're slime.
As simple as that. Bottom line here is, you know what? Kevin McCarthy may survive to remain Speaker of the House for the next year and a half, but they
doesn't matter.
Life miserable. He really has absolutely no power. He wields no power in the House of Representatives. Anything you see is for show. He's not pulling the strings there. Okay. And by the way, if he does get moved out, who do you think they're going to put in there? Take a guess. Who do you think? Do you think it can only get worse from him? He's horrible enough, but picture Marjorie Taylor Greene as the Speaker of the House.
And honestly, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think a couple of those guys who like really roasted McCarthy on the floor from the Freedom Caucus, they have shots too. Chip Roy was one of the guys that I was trying to remember his name. Chip Roy was one of them. Mike Lee's another. Then you got Jim Jordan.
Oh, my God.
Paul Gosar. Any of them. None of them. None of them will bother to negotiate with Biden. Now, if this had, and by the way, Biden negotiating.
Dave has frozen. Dave's head is frozen. Come back to us, Davey boy. I could do a song and dance right now, but I'm not really good at it.
Seats back.
You might want to repeat that because you were frozen for that entire speech.
Am I frozen?
You were frozen for that entire last comment. Can you repeat that?
I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I don't remember what the hell I was saying.
You were saying
Um,
something about getting the seats back. What the hell
oh,
was that?
yeah, we have to get the seats back.
Right, we do.
Biden was giving us some time. He knew that McCarthy might not be in that seat. He had to do this now.
Right,
He had to use their blunder by tying this debt ceiling bill to the budget to his advantage, and he
right,
did so.
right.
Now it buys us 2 years of time and puts this back in the laps of the American people.
Exactly.
Okay, we have to vote these people out of the House and out of the Senate.
52% of registered Democrats showing up at the polls will not do it. It will not do it, folks. That's what we did in the midterms. We lost the House. The House and the Senate going to the Republicans, it doesn't matter who the president is. It's game, set, and match. The president does not write legislation. He signs legislation. All the legislation comes from both chambers, not from him. You need to understand that.
One more thing. We cannot be chintzy with funding candidates. That's how we had two really good candidates lose in Florida.
Yep.
And we also cannot allow psychos like Paul Gosar to run unopposed.
Right. He ran
We
unopposed.
can't do that anymore. Okay. Joe Biden is doing what he can do right now. I don't I don't know how else to say it.
The American people need to do their part. It's as simple as that.
And then, by the way,
voters, if you go to from 52% to 80%, you know what? We don't have to worry about them. We don't have to worry about this mess.
by the way, once
You
you
can go on to social media and post pictures of your kids and cats and dogs. Okay?
right,
Honestly.
well, once we have a majority, let's say, fantasy scenario, we get the House back, we get back to where we were, like 7, 8 House seat majority, which is doable, it's possible, and we just fantasy between 4 and 6 vote lead in the Senate. Okay, if we the American people demand that the Democrats get balls, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but then we'll have some wiggle room to push these guys to do more, to ignore a filibuster when it comes to a crucial vote, because you'll render dinos useless. People complain about Henry Cuellar. Okay, when it comes to gun legislation, you're going to have more than an 8 or 9 vote lead because you have all the guys in Texas. Okay, but when you have crucial legislation, you won't have to worry about a person here or a person there, or if somebody gets gravely ill, or if they resign or pass away, unexpectedly, because those things happen.
Kevin McCarthy's got a guy leaving in September from the House. They already have a slim lead. It'll be slimmer then.
Right.
We need to get this House back. We need to get this House back. And there are already candidates. Listen, I know people say all the time, you'll never beat McCarthy. There are 2 candidates that are Democrats running already. John Burrows is one, and there is a Gen Z kid who is also running. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Right.
But, you can't walk into this election saying, oh, we'll never win that, so why bother? You have to bother.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why are you going to give them? Stop bitching then.
You have to bother. You have to care. You have to do it. Get up and do it. Okay? Look, Lauren Boebert can't be allowed to win a 3rd term in the House. She has done absolutely nothing. She has done nothing. I watch her on Twitter all day. She does nothing but tweet. She does nothing but tweet. Marjorie Taylor Greene does nothing but tweet evil shit all day long. This is not why they were hired. This is not why they were elected.
In my district, Andrew Garbarino has been in there at least 2 terms, maybe 3. And over again, I'm hearing the same thing. Well, we need to run someone other than Jackie Gordon. Let's find somebody. DM me, email me, whatever. Find someone. Work with the Working Families Party. Find somebody or support Jackie Gordon. Okay? Right. A lot of these House votes, they win by a few hundred. Okay? There's only a few thousand people vote. That's another thing. If the Democrats voted in my district, it was different when Pete King was like the national guy. When Pete King retired, that's when we got Andrew Garbarino. All right. Pete King was a national figure. He was bad news, but he was a national figure, and everybody was like, yeah, we're not going to win. So that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of times they didn't even run anybody. Again, if he's that bad, what are you doing?
Right.
And then you had people not even bothering to vote, and these guys getting like 20, 30%.
And by the way, I don't want to hear anything about, well, the reason we lost Florida was because it was redistricted.
Right.
There's a report out there that shows that the majority of a large portion of Florida Democrats didn't vote.
Right.
That's a real thing.
And part of it,
you know what? The Republicans are not in the majority. The Republicans and the right-wing people in this country are not in the majority. They never have been. So if the Democrats vote in force, redistricting can be overcome. It absolutely can. People need to understand this. Don't listen to what people are saying on social goddamn media. Vote. It's your right. You don't use your rights, you're going to lose your rights.
Right. I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know it is, but you can't not spend money and win an election. So right. Also, donate to the candidate that you want to win, or donate to the DNC or what in Florida. They spent nothing on Charlie Crist's campaign, and he came this close.
Charlie Crist, they spent in the entire state. They spent what Ron DeSantis spent in Miami. Charlie Crist in the entire state of Florida only got as much money as Ron DeSantis got for just Miami.
I think he lost by like 7%. And that's impressive based on what he... And by the way, Marcus Flowers didn't do as poorly as people thought.
Right.
And he was a black man in a racist district.
Right.
Against Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
So imagine what you can do if you can get somebody who maybe isn't as progressive as you might like, maybe a little centrist for your taste, but somebody in the Democratic Party has to find somebody. So I'm just saying that we can turn this around, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that people just got sick of hearing about, after 2016. This isn't 2016 anymore. And by the way, it's also not 2028 or 2032.
Right.
And Michelle Obama isn't running.
Right.
Neither is Oprah. Yeah. And you know what? People were asking me, oh, would you, a Pete Buttigieg ticket? Would you support a Pete Buttigieg ticket?
You know what?
If he wins in the primary, yes. That's my answer to any of that.
Let me explain something to you. Everybody is behind Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders has endorsed Joe Biden. Okay.
Gavin Newsom.
Gretchen
Whitmer.
Yeah, Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer is not ruling out a presidential run, but not now. She's busy taking care of Michigan. That's what she was elected to do. She will see her term out, and she should.
Pete Buttigieg is in Joe Biden's cabinet. Do you really think he's going to run against him? No.
Let me explain something here.
God.
Let me explain something here. You can forget. I can't even believe there are freaking people on social media talking about 2028. You know what? We have no hope in 2028 if we don't take care of 2024. I don't know what you're fucking thinking. Do you think we can literally survive 4 years of a House and a Senate with the Republicans in power? And do you think they're going to let us have a free and fair election in 2028? They're not letting you have one now. They're trying to just Carrie Lake is still at it in Arizona. Come on, people. You know what? Focus. What is everything right now? Everything. It's either democracy or fascism. Democracy or fascism. It's as simple as that. Yeah. There are no solutions in fascism.
By the way, we're not social media influencers. We don't consider ourselves that. We are social media informers. All right. Stop falling into the whole social media influencer crap too.
Write to me and give me $8 and you'll get bonus content. If you really care about this country, you're giving the fucking information away. Okay. I'm not out there to build 5,000. Let me add 5,000 more people to follow me so I can feel good about myself. You know what, people? All of this shit is right in front of your face. You don't need to pay some bozo to get bonus content. And I'm not talking just about the influencers on the right. I'm talking about the bozos on the left too. Okay.
Can I name the name?
Go ahead.
Ed Krasenstein. Shut up.
Yeah, really.
For God's sake. Joe Biden bumping his head. He's a human being. All right. He tripped. You know what? Hillary Clinton tripped.
People trip every goddamn day.
Donald Trump got sick. What's his name? Mitch McConnell got sick. You know.
Mitch McConnell missed a month with a concussion after falling at dinner. No one said a word. Okay.
I mean, stop it. John McCain, all these people in the past. G.H.W. Bush, who was considered a hard ass, and he was a hard ass. He was freaking director of the CIA. He got sick at a convention or something with a bunch of Japanese guys, and they made fun of him. He passed out.
And by the way, you know what? Look, once again, I understand that the right loves to invoke the Constitution. Maybe they should read the 25th Amendment, because the 25th Amendment wasn't written so you can just remove a president anytime you want because you think he's too old. Understand that. The Republicans only really understand one amendment to the Constitution. It's the Second Amendment. And actually, that was never about individuals owning guns. Okay? So, and by the way, one of the most conservative Supreme Court justices, a Republican, said that was never about individuals owning guns. So, look, the Republicans are ill-equipped to govern. They have, just take a look around you. That's all you need to do.
And I'll say this again about Feinstein. Okay, she's nearing the end of a term. Okay, if she leaves early, doesn't leave early, okay. But if the Republicans cared about that seat, they would have allowed a temporary replacement when she had the shingles. Period.
She asked to have somebody replace her on the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
The Judiciary Committee was a 4-3 in favor of the Democrats. The Republicans blocked that replacement so they could keep them locked up in decisions rather than give her seat to another Democrat. It's as simple as that.
Right. They don't care about governance.
They don't care about governance. One party cares about governance. And, people call the Democrats wimps. You know what? I don't want the Democrats doing what the Republicans do. That's not functioning government. We don't need two parties doing this shit. Okay, we don't.
And,
What
and
you
by
need
the way,
to do is vote out the Republicans.
Joe Biden did fine without those strong arm tactics.
Right.
He actually did well because he didn't use strong arm tactics. I'll say it again. Kevin McCarthy overplayed his hand and tried to play the bully and got played with the debt ceiling. Okay.
Yep.
He's a little boy playing a man's game. And there is something to be said for having experience in the job. Joe Biden has been doing this for 50 years. All right. Now, you might want to say, oh, well, things need to change. Fine. But they're not going to change immediately. Gen Z is, I was there in two. I remember Bill Clinton was going to be this great ray of sunshine to change everything. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. And then you had Baby Bush. Okay, it's not so.
You don't start to realign an entire party in the middle of a fascist takeover.
Right.
So understand what's going on here. Understand what's going on here. Okay.
And I'm talking 92. That's complete. By the way, that's a completely different universe.
Right.
This wasn't going on. Okay, you still had the right wing, mindset, but it was nowhere near where it is in terms of fascist rule.
No, I mean seriously, we went into the midterms with 100 and I believe it was 147.
47, 9, 40 something, yeah.
The House of Representatives. 147 who voted to overturn the election. When we came out of the midterms, we had 170. That's not the direction we wanted to go in. You understand what I'm saying? We need to get rid of these people. They're a danger to democracy. And democracy, with all its faults, is way better than fascism. There is no solution to anybody's problems in fascism. It is totally what Donald Trump envisions. Tax cuts for the wealthy, everything for the people being stripped away. That is the reality. Not to mention the rights of anybody who isn't white and male in America and straight.
And by the way, just because you're white, straight, and male, a lot of people have problems. A lot of the white males of this country are older and are going to need, Medicare and Social Security and are going to get sick and have mental issues and all that crap. So I'm just saying.
By the way,
have daughters.
by the way, there are. I'm going to speak now to the Republican people out there. There are plenty of you living on Social Security too. Safety nets, poverty, middle class woes aren't just the product of the left people. There are plenty of poor, disadvantaged, middle class, white Republican Americans that need to get a clue here. If you're still voting on party lines because you have an R next to your name, then you don't give a damn about this country. If you're voting Republican just to vote Republican.
And to the minorities, let's go full blown to the Black communities, Latino communities, Native American communities, women, LGBTQ, whoever you are, Asian. If you're voting Republican, what's wrong? What's wrong with you?
Ladies, if you don't show up at the polls, there will be a national ban on abortion. And you know what? It's not just about being able to get an abortion. It's about people who have health issues, ectopic pregnancies, miscarriages. There are stories already out there about people getting sepsis because they can't be treated until they're desperately ill. You know what? Understand this. This is no time to sit back. Now you need to get this done. It's nail in the coffin time.
Right. The argument that, the cases of rape and incest are rare. They exist. They exist. They shouldn't exist. And the case of a 10 or 12-year-old girl who's raped and is pregnant and is forced to have a kid. Well, that's just anecdotal. No, it's someone. It's a life.
Right.
That is put through torment because of your bullshit. Are you going to take care of the kid? No. Okay. Stay out of these people's lives. And I'll repeat this since we're out in left field land. You want to die on this hill? Make child marriage illegal. Set a minimum age of 18 for everyone. None of this crap. To allow kids to get married at the age of 14, some younger, I think 12 in some states, and then not give them an out, not allow them to divorce until they're a certain age.
Yeah,
That's slavery.
They can't divorce until they're 18. They have to be
Right.
legal age to divorce. That's legalized pedophilia. Understand me.
And legalize sex slavery.
Right. Right.
So,
all right, gang.
We are legitimately derailed at this point. So
the train is off the tracks. We're going to try to right ourselves, and we will see you all soon.
And we will be calling the rail unions. Have a wonderful evening.
See you later.